I'm Reuben, the CEO of Zcoin, and you're watching Rock the Block Live. Today we'll be talking about privacy coins, mining, and the general outlook of the blockchain and cryptocurrency space in 2019. I do think we'll see the bottom sometime in 2019. It'll be a very long winter, and even right now, you take a look at sentiment in general. Like Twitter's dead. Most chats are dead. There's very little. Even the number of people searching for Bitcoin is relatively low. I do think that after the whole ICO boom and bust, which was rightfully so, most of it was just scams and speculation. I think it's actually a good time to rebuild, and this is kind of, I would say, kind of like cleansing. And you see that the projects that they are serious about what they want to do, they'll be continuing to do that. I think this year personally is quite refreshing. I don't have to be working at the breakneck pace. I can be just focusing on development and building what we want to do. But you're still even with the next bull run, you're still going to have those scammy projects. I mean, some projects, even though it's quite questionable what they're doing, they've raised billions of dollars and hundreds of millions, so they can definitely survive the winter as long as they aren't stupid about it. But some of the interesting things that I would say, especially this year, are some of the mega ICOs, not really ICOs, but those that raise a lot of money, like Telegram, like Gram or something like that, and then Filecoin, Definity, and all this, raise 100 million, there's even $1 billion. It'll be interesting to see what comes up, this year, if anything, and it'll be also interesting to see, right now, I think the people that are remaining in the space are quite realistic. Okay, what are the limits of this technology? Like Ethereum, can we actually effectively scale Ethereum? And people are starting to ask the hard questions. I think that's the general case. Then I think perhaps one of the biggest trends this year would be, because people talk about STOs, I'm not personally that convinced. But I think we will see how layer 2 solutions work, especially Lightning. We're starting to see increased adoption in those areas, and I think it's a good experiment to see, well, can actually L2 work at scale? That will be an interesting thing that I'll be looking out on. Yeah. He has a good point. I wouldn't say that the way he says downright trash and things like that. Maybe I wouldn't go that far, but there's always trade-offs. I think Vitalik's view of Ethereum is that for a decentralized supercomputer, it has to be truly decentralized, in the sense that everyone is really there. The current systems that are providing so-called higher sort of performance, like TPS and all this type of things, they are sacrificing a lot of decentralization to achieve their high performance. So for example, they use something called delegated proof of stake, which is a select number of nodes, high performance nodes, run by known entities, and they provide the high performance because there's only a few nodes. I don't have to achieve consensus over thousands and thousands of nodes, but it does make it kind of centralized. You take a look at EOS, it's more or less big players, and you can also buy people to vote for you. I think, to me, I'm quite okay with that as long as they're upfront about it. And in certain cases, I think with maybe smart contract platforms, you don't need to be completely decentralized, just decentralized enough. But I still am really interested in what Ethereum is trying to do to make it truly decentralized. So I do feel that, there is a degree of truth there. For example, Neo, kept on harping about how they were Ethereum beaters when they only had 7 centralized nodes, all controlled by Neo, and then had additional friendly nodes join them. That to me isn't a true blockchain. That's just a kind of centralized database, because if it's all controlled by one entity and their friends, yeah, of course you can achieve higher performance, but at what cost? Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm okay with, let's say, like smart contract platforms being slightly more centralized. Oh yeah, I want to do gambling, I want to do prediction markets, and yeah, fine, whatever. You want to play your blockchain game. It's okay that it's like semi-centralized. It's still better than the current system than trusting like a bookie or some unknown like gambling website, right? And it just has to be decentralized enough for those type of cases. But when you're talking about currency, when you're starting to affect like state level actors, and like where like capital flight and all this type of things start becoming like a real risk, then you really need true decentralization. So if I'm running an app that I'm worried that really disrupts like the current state of things, I do need it decentralized so that it's difficult to take down. But if it's just like just like, oh yeah, gambling, or that those type of things, so why it just needs to be decentralized enough. So I don't think there's like a clear answer. It's different needs, different scales. Yeah. Privacy is not about hiding, it's about having the ability to choose what I want to reveal. Now, unlike banking systems where, okay, like the general public cannot access your bank account details, blockchain is very different because every single transaction is publicly made, online for everyone to verify. And yes, it's pseudonymous, meaning I don't know who owns this address. I can create new addresses, but take a look at Google. They've started developing tools to analyze Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all this type of things. You start being able to identify individuals, organizations, how they link to all each other. It's just a matter of time where before there'll be like a huge privacy breach. And are you comfortable with someone knowing how much Bitcoin you have, how much you spend? I'm not. Would you show your bank statement to the public? I would not. And that's how I see privacy, Like there are really a lot of legitimate use cases for privacy. Like, for example, okay, I pay something to a fertility clinic, I don't want people to know. And people see this, uses it to like generate a story out of me. Of course, that's not something I want. I want to be able to retain certain parts of my life private. And when you give the power, like when you give up this power, you are giving huge amounts of power to the government. Like for example, of course, there's this dystopian future that China has been, seen as promoting. Like they talk about social credit score, where like even like if you game too much, you reduce your score or something like. I don't really know how true that is. Maybe it's a mixture. But if the government can make determinations of what's good and what's bad, I mean, I guess also like Singapore. Yeah, okay. What kind of life am I happy to allow the government like full insight into my life by giving them that power to look into everything I do? And I think people talk about money laundering and terrorism activities. Actually, it's like a very small amount. First of all, cryptocurrencies are not really suitable to do this type of things. And if you regulate them, if it has to go through a regulated exchange with AML, KYC, so what? It goes there, and then you can identify there. But if you ban it, it just goes into like DEXs, OTC, and all this like secret type of ways. And you lose government oversight. So I said, rather you regulate it and you control what people use it. But for the average user, where I just don't want people to know what I spend on, it's good enough. Democrat Party primary elections, yeah. So
that's quite a big deal for using cryptocurrency to actually use something that is legitimate,
yeah.
For elections and voting.
It was actually a nationwide vote. So Democrat Party was trying to select its new party leader, and there were 3 candidates. And actually, they didn't even know about using blockchain. They didn't think about it. They just said, let's use an e-voting system. And what happened was halfway through, the candidates were not comfortable because they were saying, well, if you do e-voting, then who's going to control the server that stores the votes? And no one could come to, and they were like, oh, use the election commission, but people didn't even trust the election commission. So they were like, well, how do we do it? And so Poromin, the founder of Zcoin, he's Thai, and he was like, well, why don't you use blockchain? And then all the other advisors of each of the candidates, yeah, let's just use blockchain. And because then, when you store the votes there, it can't be tampered with, and everyone was comfortable with that. So at the end of the day, 127,000 votes were cast on Zcoin's blockchain, and the results were uncontested. It was a really, really good use case. I would say that maybe it's not ready for something like a national election, but for this type of elections, like party elections, or let's say I just want to get like a sentiment vote. These things are really, it really enables the technology. It gives like a good enough assurance that it wasn't tampered with, but still making it very accessible. I can vote with my phone, and I think that's really powerful. It gives power to the people. I personally don't have really much opinions about it. I mean, they were saying like, oh yeah, this is a real company, and I'm just interested to see how it pans out. And we're starting to see regulations, like government starting to think about the implications of STOs. I think it's interesting. Hopefully we'll see like a higher standard of due diligence for STOs. I think it'll be definitely better than ICOs. I'm not convinced that they would bring, like, I would say that those that should have STOs would be good enough to get funding through more traditional channels, and that should be the standard. If I'm just releasing an STO because my product's not good enough and I looking to get money from the masses, I think that's a bad sign. But if it's just a way to increase, like make it easier to transact and whatnot, I'm all for it. I think it's an interesting experiment, but I wouldn't call myself a subject matter expert in the STO area. This is quite interesting. I mean, of course, the whole talk about proof of work versus proof of stake, proof of work being the mining, proof of stake, you don't have to have this wasteful mining process. First of all, I don't know. I mean, yes, definitely the mining industry has taken a big hit. But that being said, there's also a lot of FUD, like, oh yeah, Chinese people like throwing out their miners. But a lot of the photos you take a look, they are throwing out old miners. And that's standard practice. I mean, miners typically run about a year at most, or plus, and after that, they just don't make sense anymore because there's more efficient miners out there. And of course, even a normal operation, even in a in a bull market, even if my electricity is still making money on these things, if I have a fixed number of space, I will still be throwing out my old miners to replace it with more efficient machines. So I'll be a bit careful about, like, sort of going down like, wow, yeah, everybody is capitulating. We're still seeing the big players are there. Of course, Bitmain took a big hit, but then again, the core business, I mean, yes, the less people buying miners, but they were literally swimming with money, and they were investing and funding development in areas that they had really little, like, everything they were buying into, everything they are involved in, like AI and, nice offices here and there, because IPO, everything, and they were investing in almost every other blockchain company, even in some cryptocurrencies or projects themselves. So when you talk about downsizing, I think it's more of like, well, coming back to their core business rather than, expanding their arms everywhere. And perhaps that's one of the things that I think Jihan has mentioned, that he blames it on himself because perhaps he was too aggressive or things like that. So I don't think we should say that, oh, mining is dead. It's definitely here to stay. I don't think Bitcoin is going anywhere, and as long as there's Bitcoin, there will be mining. Now, as to ASICs, versus like commodity hardware, I mean, first of all, I think people have to realize that there are two groups of people. Some that view ASICs as a bad thing, and some view ASICs as a good thing. Generally, people now are trending towards ASICs are inevitable, and that we should embrace it, and that we should go down that path. Which is an interesting narrative, but I feel that it ignores certain very key economic principles. The idea is that if you embrace ASICs and it becomes commoditized, that means, like all these mining manufacturers you can buy anywhere and everyone can just buy an ASIC, what's the point? It's better to have a specialized machine to do something and that they can't switch to other purposes. That means you have more stable hash rate and people are effectively investing in the coin because that machine only can mine that family of coins. There's good reasons on that, but the economic reality is that what are ASICs in essence? ASICs are money printing machines. And if I am an ASIC manufacturer, why should I sell you a money making machine when I could be just turning it on and making money for myself? So whatever price that they're selling you is going to have that opportunity cost factored in, which gives a lot of undue power to ASIC manufacturers because they're always weighing like, should I mine for myself or should I sell it to the customer? And they'll probably be like, when good times, they'll probably keep more, sell a bit to like get some liquidity in. But this thing is, that's why people say, oh, it's the same like AMD and Intel or Nvidia. There's only like two manufacturers. But Nvidia and AMD are not. They have no incentive to keep using the hardware themselves. They want to sell as many, and that's why it can be a commodity because they're competing and trying to get it out. ASICs are pretty different, and they can keep mining secret, they can keep special features secret. And another very big risk is what we call like hardware monoculture, where if everyone's using the same kind of hardware, what happens if there's a vulnerability? Like we heard about the, what was that, Antminer, Antbleed or something like that, where there was a vulnerability that you could access everyone's miners and like shut them down. This is our real risk, and that's why I feel that like we at Zcoin, we embrace, we kind of against ASICs, not to say forever, but at least for the first few years of the coin, where we want as wide distribution as possible, because we are a currency, we're not a smart contract platform. We want it to be used kind of like money or a store of value, however you want to use it. And to be a successful store of value or currency, you need network effects. You need people to accept it as this thing has value. And what's the best way to do it is to get it into as many people's hands as possible. For smart contract platforms, that's not as important because if I want to use a smart contract platform, I have to buy it. So it's a bit different there. So, people talk about proof of stake being more efficient and whatnot. I mean, we've seen like Ethereum struggle to come up with a viable proof of stake system. DPoS is great, but at the same time it's quite centralized as well. I don't think anyone has come up with an amazing consensus mechanism. And proof of work, although it can be seen as wasteful, on the other hand, you are tying a real life cost to something that's virtual, and I think there's value in that. Right now, I mean, the future of Zcoin, I mean, right now we're working on our new privacy protocol. I mean, of course, people always ask us, why are you trying to do something where Monero and Zcash has already taken the crown and things like that? Well, I do feel that we have real value in what we're doing. We're trying to approach privacy on a different approach. So for example, stuff like Monero or Mimblewimble, how they hide transactions is, how they provide privacy is by hiding your transactions in the crowd. Like I'm a person in the crowd, so you can't really tell what I'm doing. Or the analogy that I like to use is that, let's say I want to let out a fart, right? If I'm the only one in the room, I'm like, yeah, it's Reuben, right? But Monero is like, I bring 10 other people in and then I fart. And then like, wasn't me, could be these 10 other people, right? Yeah. But first of all, that's if you repeatedly fart, trends tend to emerge, and like, because you're always bringing like 10 different people in, and like, this smell maybe a bit distinct. Okay, I mean, like, there are telltale trails because it's a 1 in 10 chance. If I repeatedly do this, they tends to be what we call common taint trails, and then that's where privacy kind of breaks down. So I do feel that it's good for casual privacy, but when things like AI acts on big data, where they can just analyze the data really quickly and start doing it at superhuman or like supercomputer speed, then the privacy guarantees aren't as strong. And that also holds for stuff like Mimblewimble as well, because the whole concept of hiding in the crowd. What Zcash and Zcoin do is a different type of principle, where coins get destroyed, and then you can transact that. That means people can verify that a transaction has happened, but no other kind of details about it. It's just like random values. And a way to visualize it is like money just teleporting, like boop, boop. Like, I don't really know where it came from. It just like appears there. And in a way, like for example, if I bring it back to the fart analogy, like so the anonymity set for a transaction in Monero is like how many people I fart with, I bring in. With Zcoin, it's kind of like everyone who has ever farted in the room before, right? Regardless of whether they're in the room at that particular point in time. And that really is a big privacy improvement that I would say is more future-proof than, let's say, what we call decoy systems. And then people will ask, okay, how about Zcash and Zcoin? Why? There's ZK snarks, super high performance, everyone knows about it, and like, why are you pursuing a different path? So first of all, there's no relation between Zcoin and Zcash. We use different cryptographic protocols. And ZK snarks is actually what's being used in Zcash is really, really experimental. First of all, they have something called trusted setup, where you have to trust people to set up and then destroy parameters. And that means that if they didn't destroy it properly, what could have happened is that there could be a backdoor inside. That's not a good thing, because the whole point of blockchain is that you don't have to trust anyone. So where you have to trust someone, not so great, okay? And furthermore, the mathematics and the cryptography behind it are pretty new, and they really haven't stood the test of time. Even many experts are like, is the cryptography has it really been put to the test? If like ZK snarks breaks, no one gives, the only people who would care are people using ZK snarks. But we are using stuff like RSA, RSA cryptography, what we call DDH. So when those type of cryptography breaks, your banking transactions, your internet, everything breaks. So we're kind of using very solid building blocks, and we feel that we're offering like, look, if I'm going to build a potentially like billion or trillion dollar system, don't I want to be building on blocks that have stood the test of time? And that's what we are trying to do at Zcoin, to say yes, we are not to say anything wrong. We have immense respect at what Zcash does, but we feel that there's value in each one pursuing different privacy implementations, so that we have, as a whole, technologically as a whole, we have different technologies with different trade-offs, and we feel that we offer like the most well-rounded type of privacy system out there. Another thing that I think we would be leading at is actually making a cryptocurrency spendable nationwide. So in Thailand, our founder actually is one of the 3 exchanges that has a license to do this. And the unique system of Thailand is that there's a universal QR code system called PromptPay. And the system was designed in such a way that any kind of payment system can plug in and pay direct to the bank account. So that means Alipay, WeChat Pay, credit cards, bank transfers, all in this one QR code system. Not like in Malaysia or even Singapore that there's a multitude of QR codes. And there are like many million people who are already on this platform because it's government backed. Now we have found a way to be able to pay Zcoin, and then the merchant receives Thai baht because we have the exchange layer. And of course, I mean, ideally, eventually the merchant will say, yeah, I'm not going to convert it to Thai baht, but I think it's a good start to say that to make it real, I need to be able to spend it in real places. And if we can pull this off, hopefully in the next few months or so, this would be really huge for, I would say, cryptocurrency adoption. So those are some of the really interesting things that we are working on now. I would say that it fits a niche, about privacy. I mean, right now, unfortunately, privacy is a niche. I mean, even I don't think, people talk about Lightning providing privacy and all this, doesn't really do it that well. I don't think we'll be supplanting Bitcoin anytime soon, unless people say there's a huge privacy breach and suddenly everyone's like, oh crap, we need privacy. So I wouldn't say gold, silver, I don't know, is that invisible gold? Right. I mean, that's how I see it. We're fitting a particular need, and hopefully the narrative that we're trying to push is that it shouldn't be a niche. Everyone should care about their privacy. And I think only over the past few years with scandals such as Cambridge Analytica, with Facebook, selling our data left, right, center, people are starting to realize, yeah, maybe I need some privacy. Or if governments start becoming authoritarian, there are some countries that are going completely cashless. Do I want a system like that? That's personally quite scary. Yeah. That's fine, but people have to understand that, okay, when I sign up for this platform, I'm giving this up. If you're okay with that, that's fine. But right now, sometimes we don't have a choice. Yeah. If I use WeChat Pay, obviously everything's being tracked, right? And if it's the only system available, I don't have a choice. Yeah. So I would like to provide okay, yeah, if you don't mind going through a little bit more hoops, you want your privacy, you can use this. And I think providing that alternative is important to, in a way, keep governments on their toes. Not to say that trying to circumvent them, but trying to prevent overreach, I think we would say. We've seen things in Venezuela, where cryptocurrencies are actually helping people there, or in certain governments where the currencies are just total crap. Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies or whatnot, they are, as speculative as they are, it provides some sort of escape from current oppressive systems, and I think that's important to have that in the background. I mean, my hopes that, yeah, obviously we would like to be a global system and whatnot, and hopefully people realize the importance of privacy. I don't know whether we'll get there. I mean, we'll try our best, and I think we're probably one of the most honest teams out there, and what we're trying to do. We're quite small. I mean, right now we're 40 million US dollars. But we are traded on the largest exchanges, Binance, Bittrex, Huobi. We're still looking into more. And we have been actively pursuing fiat pairings. We have very interesting fiat pairings, we have Turkish lira, we have Indian rupee, we have AUD, we have Thai baht, all sorts of fiat pairings, because we need to kind of get out of the Bitcoin type of pairings. Yeah. Because we really want to be a true currency, true or store of value, where to me it's kind of hand in hand. All I wanted to say is that if you want to find out more about us, we have a very welcoming community. I think perhaps our most active community would be on Telegram, Zcoin project. Just look us up, go through our website, zcoin.io. We also have a very active Twitter, Zcoin official. Just go to our website, check us out, ask any questions you have. I mean, these topics are not easy to understand. We'll be happy to guide you through why we think we deserve to be one of the best privacy coins.